Hello boaters. Well, it's been quite a while since I did a talking to video type vlog, but here we go. I've been so preoccupied with doing the cruising videos that I simply haven't had the time. And also I wanted to save the more talking type videos for times when I wasn't moving around so much. I'm now back on the South Oxford Canal, and I'll probably stay in this general region for the whole of the winter. Today I'm recording, it's the 24th of November 2022, and we're just coming into the winter period, and this is the time of year when I have problems with power quite often. My boat is entirely solar powered. All the electricity comes from solar, and most of the year I've got more than enough power, more than I need. But December and January, that can be a problem for me. It's not because my panels aren't up to the job, it's simply just lack of direct sunlight. That's what they need. They need to have direct sun. When you buy solar panels, very often you'll be reading about them and they'll say, well, this panel will charge your batteries even on a cloudy day. And that's true, but there's a huge difference between sunny days, cloudy days, and even cloudy days in the summer and cloudy days in the winter. So I've got about 340 watts of solar panel charging ability, which can give out, it's hard to say exactly how many amps they can produce, but it's more than 15. It's somewhere between 15 and 20 amps capable of charging in the right conditions. You very, very rarely see them going high like that because the batteries are not normally flat, and they don't really need that amount of charging to keep them active. On a cloudy day in the summer, so a heavy overcast day, the solar panels will produce about maybe 2 amps, 1.5, 2 amps or so. The same sort of weather in the winter, and I would be lucky if I got half an amp. So the truth is that solar panels do charge your batteries on cloudy days, but the output is very much reduced. It's easy enough for them to produce a charging voltage, just normal daylight will do that, but you need direct sunlight to get any sort of current, any sort of amperage going into the batteries. So for that reason, you see, during December and January, if we don't get much sunshine, then my batteries have to make up the shortfall, and that's only good for 2 or 3 days maximum. So the problem is not so much cloudy days, it's many consecutive cloudy days is what causes the problems. Last year was a good example. December last year, the first 2 weeks of December were pretty good. Not very good charging, but we got a fair amount of sunshine and it was okay. But the second 2 weeks, which included Christmas and New Year, that was terrible. I didn't see the sun once in 2 weeks, and my batteries didn't go flat, but they did get quite low, and they didn't go flat because simply I stopped using stuff. So it meant that I couldn't use the laptop, I couldn't use the TV, and that's when you sort of need these sort of things at that time of year. Very short days, long nights, you just want to sit down in front of the TV or something like that, and especially over Christmas time, it's incredibly boring. And really frustrating as well, because everything hinges on getting sunshine and you're just waiting for the sun to break through the clouds, and it just doesn't happen. So it's not a nice time of year for me. It'd be the perfect time to catch up on editing videos and things like that if I could. But, it depends on the weather, but sometimes I just can't even use the computer at all. Luckily I've got a phone and I've got a little tiny tablet computer which I can use for internet. They don't use much power, so they're kind of handy. So it does keep me connected, but I can't do the serious stuff. So that was December. January was totally different. Apparently it was the sunniest January on record. And it was. We had a few cloudy days, but it was a lot of sunshine and it was cold, but I had no problems with battery charging in January at all. So that's just the way it goes. More than a few consecutive days of cloud and I've got problems. So it is possible, depending on the weather, that you might not see all that many videos from me over the next 2 months. These sort of talking to camera videos, they take me a lot less time to make, so I might still be able to continue to do these sort of things. We'll have to see. It all depends on the weather. So I'm still continuously cruising, making videos as I go. You know, most of the trips that I make are less than 2 hours, an hour or two I'll move for, and I record almost every trip. These videos will get added to the queue and they'll be edited as and when I can get round to it. They don't seem to be as popular. They're not getting the views, and I'm not getting lots of new subscribers, so I think I'm going to have to try and think of different things to do, hence this video really. So this year I have been travelling around quite a lot, not as much as in previous years. I've been making a cruise, then mooring up for maybe, you know, a week or so, and then moving on again. So I haven't gone as far, but they're still being recorded, and also in between I've been trying to do some bit of some jobs on the boat, various maintenance jobs. It's woefully inadequate, there's so much to do, but I'm trying to catch up with a few things. I'm not really up to videoing these sort of jobs. I will try in the future, but it's quite difficult because, for example, the back hatch on my boat, it no longer would slide open, and it also needed to be relined and re-insulated and fixed up generally, draft proofed as well. And I was in Rugby. I bought some of the materials I thought I would need. I started working on it, and by the time I'd left Rugby, I realised that I needed some more wood and a few more bits and pieces to finish the job. But because I'd left Rugby, there was nowhere to go and buy these things. It's a major problem when you're travelling. You know, you don't necessarily have the local knowledge of where to go to get what you need, but also there just may not be anywhere local where you can get these things. And it was about 2 months later, when I got to Banbury, that I was able to continue that job. So these things can take a long time. I did actually start videoing it, but because of the gap was so enormous, I decided not to continue with that one. I have more or less finished it now, luckily, because we've lost the weather for that sort of thing. One of the things I had planned on doing was painting my roof, which is very rusty and needs painting, and well, rust treating and painting. I didn't get around to that this year. One thing I did do was replace the flue pipe on my stove, and the collar on the top of the stove where the flue pipe sits in, that had cracked as well, so I had to replace that. And the flue pipe had been a bit dodgy for a couple of years really, and I was looking around. Well, I was up on the Peak Forest Canal, and I thought, well, where can I get a flue pipe? And I looked online, Midland Chandlers was one place, and I found them there, about £45. I thought, well, that's not bad, but I'm miles and miles away from Midland Chandlers. Oh, well, I'll get one when I'm passing. Eventually, when I did get down to Midland Chandlers, they suddenly hiked up to £70 each, which was not good. And then the collar for the stove, that was another £30. And then there was the silicone sealant, the fire rope, and all the various other little bits and pieces that I needed. It was quite expensive in the end, but it's done now and it's looking good. I mean, the old flue pipe lasted over 20 years, so we're doing pretty well really. But that's one job I've done. There's so many more things to do. There really is. It's like fiddling whilst Rome burns comes to mind. You know, it's just, you get to a point where you just can't keep on top of it anymore. You know, things are getting old and failing. You know, and needing replacing. You just do what you can, but getting hold of the materials, or maybe tools or equipment that you might need to do these jobs, can be really problematical when you're travelling. You know, it depends where you are. Of course, you may not have a delivery address either, so mail order is quite often difficult. One problem I do find is that with eBay, which I use quite a lot, I use the click and collect, so you can get stuff sent to a local shop. And that's good, but it only applies to items over £5 in value. And very often I might need to buy some, maybe some stainless steel bolts or something like that, which cost about £3. But I can't get them sent click and collect, and I don't have a home delivery address. So a lot of things I'm unable to buy. And these are and very often they're things that you cannot buy locally. You go to the various hardware stores and they may have the occasional sort of, well, they don't usually have that good a range of nuts and bolts anyway, but stainless steel is even more unlikely to get what you need. So it's a real hassle. I've been stocking up on various tools and fixtures and fittings. You try and anticipate what you might need. For years, for example, I bought a little staple gun the other day. It was very cheap, and I thought, I used a staple gun on the boat about 25 years ago, and I haven't needed one since. But I thought it could be useful, so I bought it. It was only about £3, very cheap. Well, since then, that was just a few months ago, I've used it half a dozen times already. So, you never know quite what you're going to need, so you just have to guess. And sometimes I buy unnecessary things, but you never know when they're going to come in handy. That's why it's very difficult to throw things away as well. There's always offcuts of wood lying around, but I will need them at some point. Very difficult getting things, and boatyards tend to be very expensive, so you get things where you can, and hopefully at the best prices you can. So, this talking to camera video is going quite well. I was out of practice, you see. I've had the equipment in my lounge here set up and ready to go for the last 3 days, but I hadn't got around to actually sitting down and recording a vlog, and that's because I've been messing around with my laptop, trying to upgrade it. It's a Lenovo T430. It's quite old, but it's a good laptop, but it's old. I bought it refurbished, not that expensively, and it's very upgradable. So I've been, in the last sort of week or two, I've been upgrading the RAM. I went from 6 gigabytes to 12 gigabytes. And one of the things I really wanted to do was to change the hard drive for an SSD drive, which is much faster. And I bought a hard drive, an SSD, so I drive probably about 3 or 4 years ago now, tried to migrate the operating system and all my files to it. And it all went wrong. And in the end I had to completely restore the operating system from a backup copy, and since then I was a bit scared to try. But I've been doing a bit of research and learning about it online, and I found out that the best way was just to have another go, not to use the dedicated migration software for these things, but just to take a system image that I'd recorded from the good hard drive, take the hard drive out, put the SSD in, and then restore the system image onto the new SSD drive. Now, that didn't go completely smoothly, but I did manage to get it to work. So there've been lots of little adjustments going on in the background, but the computer itself now is much improved, a lot faster. So I'm quite happy about that. I've got to get another drive now, because the SSD drive that I put into, it's now the C drive where the operating system resides. Because it failed the first time when I tried years ago, I decided, well, rather than waste the drive, I'll stick it into another drive bay in the computer and use it as just a data storage drive. So I've been just putting videos on it and things like that. So now I've used that one as the C drive. I've got to replace the data storage drive, so that's on order. But that's an easy job. I'm quite confident that I can do that. I'm not an expert with computers, but I will try things. But when things don't go to plan, that's when it gets stressful. I was really quite stressed yesterday trying to migrate the stuff, the operating system, onto this new drive, and I was delighted when it finally worked and the computer booted up really quickly. You know, what a relief. But yeah, it's quite nerve-wracking. Anyway, I think that's about all for this vlog. I've waffled on long enough. I'm a bit out of practice with doing these. Sorry about the reflection of the light in my glasses, but this little video light I've got, which is a circular thing. I haven't got a mirror, I can't hold it up to show you what it looks like. Yeah, it does improve the video lighting a bit, so I need to try and get rid of those reflections. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.